No, look, I mean, it's the playbook that they planned in the sense of increasing sanctions. The argument was always being made, should we put the sanctions in advance because we know he's going to do something? I think that was always stupid, because the idea is you want to use the sanctions as some sort of leverage. It may not be strong enough leverage, but you want to use them and say, don't do more, we'll have more sanctions. And I think what's become very clear is that the initial sanctions are not all that strong, but they'll hurt. Additional sanctions can hurt more. Will it be enough to stop Putin? I doubt it very much, because that's not what really he cares about.
We'll get into that topic in depth here coming up. But looking at the U.S. and the wider picture here on the troop movements now we're seeing to NATO allies, troop deployments, U.S. troops, how far does it appear the U.S. is willing to go on this to thwart Vladimir Putin right now?
Okay, so quite clearly the United States is willing to go to war if he attacks one of the NATO allies. And I guess one of the big fears is his next thing on his agenda will be to demand a passageway to Kaliningrad, which is a Russian enclave within Poland and Lithuania. And that would be clearly war. I mean, it goes really back to Hitler and Danzig. I mean, the replay of events previously slightly changed geography, but is really frightening. So the United States wants to make it very clear that if Russia attacks or tries to attack Lithuania, Poland, any of the NATO allies, that will mean war. And of course, that's the only real way of deterring Putin. In terms of Ukraine, the United States will continue to send them advanced weaponry, as much as they can send, as quickly as they can send, to try to make it as costly as possible for Putin to go forward. And I have no doubt that he's planning to go forward.
And along those lines here, Putin's moves now, as we're seeing, does it appear they're catching the West by surprise? I mean, there's been a lot of preludes to this, going back some 12 years, especially from 2014 in this Donbass region. Even after all that, does it appear that the West was perhaps not ready for these moves by Putin?
Okay, I mean, it depends on what you mean by not ready. I mean, the fact of the matter is everyone knew that Putin had his eye on Ukraine. Even Trump in his crazy statements yesterday claims that he kept on saying the fact that he had his eye on Ukraine. So there was no question, and he wrote an article not that long ago where he basically said Ukraine shouldn't exist as a sovereign state. So clearly it was on the agenda. Timing, I mean, we've known timing now for about 6 or 8 weeks. The United States has made it very clear this is what they're planning to do. Tactically, I'm not sure everyone thought that he would do what he's currently doing, and his current plan seems to be to recognize the independence of these two provinces and then claim that their territorial integrity is important, and then use his troops to try to oust Ukraine from which currently is in 2/3 of these provinces. So that's where the war, if it's going to start, is going to start. Russian troops supporting these separatists. And keep in mind, these separatists are a fiction. They were a fiction created by the SVG and created by the Russians. They would not on their own have even existed. They exist because the Russians created them. And when the Ukrainian army tried to put them down in 2014, in September 2014, the Russian army came to their aid. Maybe not officially, but unofficially, they came in and they pushed back the Ukrainian army. So there's no real surprise here. It's in Putin's agenda to dismember Ukraine. That's what he wants to do. And the question is, how far will he go, and how big a price will he pay?
And along those lines, we're seeing pressure now coming from Western Europe around the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. We have a bit of less than a minute right now, but that also, you think they'll follow through on that threat with Nord Stream 2?
Yes, I think so. I think the Europeans are scared out of their minds right now. This is not the sort of thing, this is not Vietnam, this is not Afghanistan, this is not very far. This is on their doorstep. They're scared of a return of a war in Europe. I mean, who could have thought we were talking about war in Europe in 2022?